My topic is how Russian disinformation can weaponize Ukrainian refugees' perception of Europe. Here, the capital U is not a mistake, but it means that I actually, by Europe, I mean European Union, sorry. This talk presents the results of the first part of my research on this topic, and this research is supported by 2-year scholarship with the University of Sheffield, UK. In terms of mobility, Ukrainians reacted on the invasion of 2022 in different ways. Vast majority stayed put. Some evacuated within Ukraine, which constitutes 70% of all displaced Ukrainians because of this stage of the war. We mean the full-scale invasion of 2022. And every fifth Ukrainian went abroad. The figures are debatable, but it is believed that roughly 2/3 went to the EU, which is probably 4.3. Eurostat gives this numbers, million, and 1/3 went to the Russian Federation, which is around 2 million. Who are these Ukrainian refugees in the European Union? Here, that even the term refugees is debatable, as technically they are not given political asylum in host countries. They are rather forced migrants under the 3-year temporary protection directive, which has been enacted for the first time since its adaptation in theoretically, implementation back in 2001. But none of these refugees actually ever heard or thought about this temporary protection directive when they left Ukraine since the first maybe hours of the current invasion, because they were their main opportunity that they saw and capitalized on was actually the visa-free regime with the EU, which was implemented back in 2017. Who are these refugees? They are mostly females in their 30s with children, rather really well educated, mostly city dwellers. They come from most of Ukrainian regions. Their motivations for coming abroad are safety first, then the attempt to get access to superior economy, better economic situation in the EU versus the better Ukrainian economy because of the war. And thirdly, some of them may consider migration, meaning the attempts to stay in host countries. In terms of geography, most of these refugees stay in Germany now, where they enjoy access to generous welfare benefits plus free language courses of German language. The second country in terms of figures, in terms of numbers, is Poland, where when Ukrainian refugees have simplified access to the work market, and Czechia. Of course, as usual, the main issue with refugees is their possible integration in host countries. Do these refugees constitute a homogeneous group? At least 4 subgroups can be analysts single out at least 4 subgroups here. The first one, which constitutes roughly a quarter of them, is classical refugees. These are females with children, very ill-equipped for staying abroad. They have low levels of proficiency in local languages, very poor financial standing, virtually no friends abroad, so they actually was caught unprepared for this situation. The second part is quasi-labor migrants who had previous experience of working abroad, and they are ready to continue with it. The third one is professionals who are eager to work according to their qualifications, unlike quasi-labor migrants who normally agreed for deep professionalization and low-skilled jobs. And the fourth and the last subgroup here are people from hostilities zones. They are, despite the fact that they are like classical refugees, are very ill prepared for staying abroad. They are the least likely to return because they have, for example, their place of residence may be occupied, their accommodation could be, their property could be damaged by the hostilities, and they may experience direct threat to their lives if they would stay there. What is their perception of Europe? As you know, Europeans showed great hospitality towards Ukrainian refugees, unlike the Syrians and Afghan migrants during the previous refugee wave to the EU back in 2015. Ukrainian refugees got access to many rights and opportunities which are available to EU residents only. And some of these refugees already enjoy a higher standard of living compared to what they had in Ukraine. Researchers single out 2 subgroups here. Some of refugees stay in near countries, which is actually Poland in the first place, and some of them move to distant ones, for example, Norway. What is the difference? Those who move to distant countries are more likely inclined to stay in host countries, to migrate for good. And these 2 subgroups differ in their assessment of the prospects of war. Those who move to distant countries are more inclined to believe in the protracted war and are more cautious in their assessment of the possibility of Ukrainian victory. Integration, as usual, first and foremost requires overcoming language barrier, the ability to compete in labor market, and the ability to rent an accommodation. As you know, firstly, many of Ukrainian refugees were living with the hosting families, which of course could be only a temporary solution. Diaspora networks of Ukrainians within the EU influence greatly the directions of movement of Ukrainian refugees. Among the negatives we could mention nostalgia for some better past, peaceful past, for example. Many refugees suffer because of the separation of families, as these females with children, many of them have left their husbands behind in Ukraine. They suffer because of their uncertain future, as you know that EU countries prolong this temporary protection at each and everyone's own pace. Plus, no one knows what will happen when in the spring of 2025 this temporary protection will end. Some of these refugees experience low socialization levels, as they strongly prioritize sustaining connections, information, media connections, sustaining media consumption toward Ukraine. They prioritize watching, consuming Ukrainian news on Ukraine, in Ukrainian, sustaining their social ties with Ukrainians who stay in Ukraine, which may hinder their meaningful connections and relations with the locals. So as usual, we see here this complex interplay of push and pull factors, where the main push factors is, of course, the war, and pull factor is this attractive social benefits. Now we may proceed to our main question. Can we expect that Russian disinformation could be influential for these refugees and seem trustworthy for them still? From the first glance, it seems highly unlikely, as many of these refugees are those who are direct victims of this war. They are directly affected by it. And for many Western governments, their choice to migrate to the EU is perceived as a proof of the willingness of their willingness to actually vote with their feet for the democratic path. They declare pro-Ukrainian views and trust in the EU. But at the same time, we may also consider the other possibilities. First and foremost, it is human inertia. As you know, many Ukrainians, at the start of this invasion, publicly declared their willingness to switch to Ukrainian language from Russian. We all know that it is not an easy decision. It's easier said than done. That is why this inertia plus war fatigue may push those refugees for searching of trade-offs and alternative solutions. So yeah, maybe we may give some land, concede some territory to Russia in order to win unstable peace and the like. So when trying to define the probable features of this at-risk group or groups within this stock of refugees, we may first and foremost mention pro-Russian views, especially among those who come from south and east of Ukraine, predominantly pro-Russian regions, who prioritize their media consumption in Russian language, who experienced forced migration in the full sense of this, in its full sense, which happened overnight, which caught them off guard, whose integration at least seemingly failed, who are nostalgic towards some better past, which could be peaceful Ukraine or a time of perceived harmony with Russians or Russian culture, Russian media, or Soviet times, who suffer the most from the protracted war, who have this consumerist approach toward the EU, who came there just to use these benefits and not give anything in return, and who have the distrust in the official sources, which is highly characteristic for refugees in Ukraine in particular. What could be the hypothesis here? What could be the ways of possible co-opting these refugees into Russian fold of supporters, the fold of Russian supporters? I may single out two of maybe the most effective and prospective ways. One may have the point of departure, the EU itself. Yes, the EU is rich, but the Russian disinformation may drive a wedge between the acknowledgement of economic superiority of the EU over Ukraine, but at the same time, the denial of democratic rights, which is characteristic of the EU. For example, each and everyone's equal rights, regardless of their, for example, ethnicity, race, skin color, sexual orientation, religion, and the like. And here, Russia may appear as an attractive alternative, the viable alternative. And they say, look, Russia is richer than Ukraine, but still it promotes the so-called traditional values. The second way of co-opting possible supporters from this stock of migrants could be Russia's self-victimization, when the perceptions perceptors of this disinformation may start justifying the aggressor. What is the way of thinking could be there? Yes, Russians are war criminals. They rape, kill, loot, and the like, but they have the right to do it. Or they were forced to do it by NATO enlargement, by the evil West, which actually pushed Russia toward self-defense. A sobering case here is Russian migrants in Germany, which actually, as you know, most of them are not ethnic Russians. At least they are declared they are not. Most of them migrated from the post-Soviet republics in 1990s. Half of them actually came from Ukraine. They are described as EU consumers mostly, for many of them, their integration failed. They are mostly unemployed. Many of them are unemployed. They experience over-reliance on Russian media and express disdain for Germany and EU as a whole. And we already see the case of some proof of political mobilization of them. Many of these migrants become a core of electorate for this far-right party, Alternative für Deutschland. And the potential for political mobilization of these migrants is shown by the famous Lisa case. Or in 2016, Lisa who is then was a 13-year-old Russian-German migrant, went missing for a day, and upon her return, she told her parents that she had been kidnapped by two males of the way she expressed it, of Arab appearance, who spoke bad, poor German. This, despite the fact that she later denied her allegations, and police investigation disproved these allegations of her. This case got huge coverage in Russian and pro-Russian media. And provoked massive demonstrations and protests in many cities of Germany. Here on the photo, you may see a placard which says refugees are not welcome. And definitely this green color is meant to signify religious religious aspect of these perceived attackers. What's next? I plan to continue this research, and my attempt, I aim to prove or disprove my hypothesis with the semi-structured quality interviews with Ukrainian refugees in the EU. Thank you.